who doesn't love going fast in their cars, speeding down the highway or where you're honestly supposed to, the track, but you're probably driving a little four-cylinder car that's kind of slow. So there's a way you can actually make that car kind of fast, and it's called turbocharging your car. Now, you can't just bolt one on and all of a sudden be going 200 miles per hour. So today I'm going to show you some basics and how you can install one yourself. Today, we're going to look at how a turbo works itself and like the mechanics to it, how to install one, and then keeping your motor safe once you install the turbo. According to Chris Woodford, a turbo its main job is just compressing air. And it has two turbine wheels inside of it, so they spin off of the exhaust air that pushes the wheels. So it sucks in more air and creates more air pushed into the intake of the motor. So it just flows straight into there, through the cooler, and then back into the motor, just to create more air and fuel for the engine for more power. Now that we know the basics of a turbo, let's look at what you'd have to do to install one. Now, installing a turbo can actually be kind of put together like Legos. It's just basics. First, you got to remove off the stock motor, the exhaust manifold and the entire exhaust all the way off. And then you have to take off all air intake and intake pipes. After you get done with that, you have to remove the oil pan because you have to have an oil source for the turbo. So you have to drill a hole in the oil pan and create the oil return line. And then you also will need the oil feed to get oil to the turbo. So you can just take that from the stock oil filter or oil pressure regulator with fittings that you can just order online. And to get all these parts, you can just order a turbo kit online also, and it'll come with all of it as seen. And then after you remove all stock parts, you start bolting on all turbo parts. So you could start with the turbo manifold, which would go where the stock exhaust was, and then the turbo on top of that. And the wastegate goes on the turbo manifold as well. After that, you can start with the oil lines and putting the oil pan back on. And then you need your intercooler, which will cool the turbo on the front. Like it goes down in the front of the bumper. And that just hooks up to the air intake. That's why you got to take off those pipes. All right, and that's the basics to bolting on a turbo. So let's move on to how you can keep your engine safe under the turbo's boost. And what a turbo does basically is it creates air, as I said earlier. And so with all that air, you need gas. And because a motor runs off of air and fuel, and with more air, you need more gas. And so according to Peter Wu, the best way of adding fuel is tuning your ECU. And you may not know what an ECU is, but it's basically just the brain of a car. And why you need to buy a new one is the stock ones don't allow for adding extra fuel because they're just made for naturally aspirated and not a turbo. And to do that, you have to have a dyno tune, which I have a video of. Now that we know all of the basics, let's review what we looked over. We looked how a turbo works and the basic mechanics of it, how you can install one yourself, and keeping your engine safe under boost. And that's it, I guess. I don't have an engine.